All right, let's get to it. Melt these up real quick while we're waiting for people. All right, those are melted off. Let me take a look at this real quick because I need this for the walking stick later. This is all sorts of knotted up. All right, let's see. Good gracious, why is this so knotted up? There we go. Let's see, here we go. Oh, I forgot my scissors. I'll be right back. I need scissors. It's gonna be really hard to do this without scissors. All right. I do not have anybody this morning. Huh. Oh, all right. That's okay. I think it's the end of summer. Everybody's going to school and probably doing their vacations. Top fans. Or top fans. What is that? Interesting. Huh. All right. That's when you are corded up. Hey, welcome everybody to Sunday Finishing Work. Just cording up a few yawara. And then got a bunch of steaks to cord wrap. And probably finish off the morning with a walking stick I've been working on for a while. I just haven't seemed to have time to finish it. So finally gonna finish it this morning. But while you're here, if you've got any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. Help me stay sane this morning. go. That one is done. I got one more. This one's the shop design palm taper style. There we go. These. There we go. So the yawara are almost done here. There we go. Got these yawara all finished. So this kind's already on the shop, so just adding that to the inventory. These two will get added to the shop later today. All right, I'll be right back. Let me go put these in the inventory room, and I'll be right back. There you go. And before I move on to the steaks, I've got to buff out a boat can real quick. I had to put in a second coat of tung oil this morning. And it just needs to get a quick buff, get any air bubbles out of it. There you go. This one is European Beach. And there we go. Come on, buff out. This tung oil can be a little tacky when it's not quite cured, and it's doing that this morning, which can make it tough to buff out. You know what, we'll try it with the sock. The sock usually is easier. And this is probably the strongest boken that I make in my shop for Japanese martial arts. It's made out of European beech, which is very, very strong stuff. And as with all the boken and wasters in my shop, it is guaranteed if it breaks when it should not break, I will replace it for free. You don't have to return the old one, you just get a new one. There we go. That one's buffed out. Excuse me. Man, this Sunday it's gonna suck a little bit after I'm done here. I've got to spend some time cleaning the shop for a little bit because apparently there's some kind of safety inspector coming to the shop later this week from the insurance company. And I've been told there can't be any sawdust, which I'm kind of difficult considering I work with wood in an interior shop. Like, there's no way I can get rid of all the sawdust without emptying out my shop completely. So anyway, I've got a couple of these hickory daggers. We're gonna do these first. I already sell these on the shop. I'm just making a couple more ahead of Halloween season, which I say starts in September, but it feels like this year it started already. I've got people are already buying up vampire steaks, which normally doesn't start happening until about the first week of September. But this year, for some reason, people are in the Halloween spirit a lot earlier. Maybe it's because the world's kind of a horror show right now. I don't know. But yeah, we got a lot of people. I'm taking these glasses off so I can focus my eyes. But yeah, I've sold a lot of vampire steaks in August, which is weird. Normally, I maybe sell 1 or 2 in August. I've sold probably 5 already in August, which is nuts. Which I know, like, hopefully that's an indicator of what the Halloween season is going to be like, because I usually, like last year, I think I sold about 100 steaks total during the spooky season. I've seen a lot more. It's interesting. I've seen a lot more people. I've had a lot more people buying stuff from me who say they're doing Buffy the Vampire Slayer cosplay, which is interesting to me because that show and the movie are so, they've been off for so long. I think it's interesting that that's kind of making a comeback. I don't know if it's because Sarah Michelle Gellar's back on TV or in movies. I don't know. But yeah, a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer cosplayers out there, it seems like, this year, which is cool to me. I know I sold a lot of steaks actually ahead of con season to people who were doing Buffy cosplay for conventions. Welcome everybody. This is Saturday or Sunday finishing work, not Saturday standing. Wrong live stream. Welcome to Sunday finishing work at Warrior Wood and Props. If you got any questions about what I'm doing or what we do in the shop, what I do in the shop, I was like, I said we. I'm the only one in the shop. But drop those in the chat. I'm glad to answer them. Right now, I'm cord wrapping up a hickory dagger / vampire hunter steak. I started making these recently because I've made hickory daggers for a long time, but they're all very pretty and shiny and new looking. And I have had a few people say they would love to buy one, but they look too nice. They wanted it to look more weathered and old, so started making these. I distressed them up and I stained them, distressed them up, and give them a little handle wrap so they have more of a rugged look with the jute cord. Yeah, he's a little bit further. Excuse me. See, this weather's got my allergies and sinuses in a tizzy. Here we go. One down. Oh yeah, I just realized I also have a pair of Electrocide that I might need to finish up this morning. We'll see. Those are over in the inventory room. I'll bring those over after I finish all this stuff. I don't want to mess them up. What's up, everyone? Welcome. We're just cording up some vampire steaks here. If anyone's got questions, drop those in the chat. I will gladly answer them. These Sunday lives help me be less bored while I'm cord wrapping. Helps take my mind off the fact that the hands are cramping most of the time while I'm doing this. Well, that's not long enough. Hang on. Here we go. Yeah, I'm looking forward to spooky season this year because, after Etsy shut my shop down last year around the holidays. And so I had to kind of start all over on eBay, and Etsy shut me down because I didn't really do anything. It's just they changed a rule apparently about what they consider batons, and batons, you're not allowed to sell batons on Etsy. like melee batons, and they decided that anything between like 6 and 24 inches was a baton, and or 6 and 36 inches was a baton. And I sold Eskrima sticks on my shop, and those Eskrima sticks all got flagged as batons, and my shop got shut down for weapons violations, which is ridiculous because Eskrima sticks are definitely not batons. You can't hide an Eskrima stick in your shirt or your pants. Anyway, I guess you could hide an Eskrima stick in your pants, but I don't know why you would want to. It seems a little weird. So I started over on eBay this year, and my sales have been very slow compared to what I had on Etsy, but I had built up a customer base on Etsy for like 3 years before they shut me down, and now having to build my eBay customer base back up. I've got a Shopify store, also warriorwoodandprops.com, but unfortunately Shopify, I'm not quite sure why, they've somehow added a second step to logins, and whatever that second step is, I don't have it, and I can't get into my shop. And Shopify apparently does not have a customer support line, which is it. All they have is an FAQ page that you ask questions to, and I'm like, I do not understand this at all. And they said I have to figure that out, but I can't figure it out, and so I can't log into my shop. Luckily, all the listings were disabled, but I did that before I went to Texas last month. But man, it's a pain in the butt. Unless you're Nightwing, right? Exactly. Unless if you're Nightwing, probably. I mean, he carries his on his back most of the time. He could probably carry him in his pants. From what I've heard about Nightwing, he's already got a stick in his pants, if you know what I mean. But anyway, yeah, so but on Etsy, the first year I was on Etsy, things really started turning around after the first Halloween and holiday season. So I'm really hoping maybe the same thing happens on eBay here, because if it does not, I don't know what I'm going to do with the shop. It's definitely the shop. My only rule, I'm not looking to make money on it. I just want the shop to pay for itself. That's what it was doing until the whole debacle with Etsy. So the shop was paying for itself for quite a while there, but you know, Etsy doesn't really like you if you don't sell jewelry or candles, you know, and I sell really weird shit. Like vampire steaks and spiky bats and barbed wire covered bats and axe bats and practice weapons and all other kinds of crazy stuff, and Etsy did not like that apparently. So yeah, so these are done. You go put these up. I'll be right back, and then I got about 6 of these. There's a new kind of a newish style of poplar steak. What is it called that I sell? Weird shits? I don't know. I sell everything. There, Captain Ken. I sell practice weapons for Kenjutsu, Buhurt, Hema. I sell cosplay props. I sell vampire steaks. I sell walking sticks. I sell, all kinds of stuff. I sell yawara. I sell a lot of yawara, which are like palm sticks. I sell a lot of those. I just make a lot of stuff. Anything weird that I like that I can make out of wood, or as a prop, I will make it. Oh, Etsy absolutely allows those. Etsy allows freaking swords and knives. Like, you can buy a murder knife on Etsy, but you can't buy a stick. A stick is where Etsy draws the line. They're totally fine with like swords, machetes, freaking Bowie knives. All that kind of stuff's fine, but a stick, that's entirely that's way too dangerous for Etsy. Way too dangerous for Etsy's taste. You also can't sell. Apparently, they didn't like my baseball bats either. Technically, my baseball bats were not violating any policies, but they did not like them. So They said it wasn't in line with Etsy's brand, whatever the hell that means. My eBay site is Warrior Wood and Props, Captain Ken. Honestly, if you just go on eBay and search Vampire Hunter Steak or Vampire Slayer Steak, most of my listings will be the first thing that comes up. So yeah, but Warrior Wood and Props is the name of my eBay store. Same as my YouTube channel and everything else. They go put these in the inventory room. I'll be right back. Went ahead and grabbed these while I was over there. These are Prop Electra Psi. These are made of rubber. They look fairly real on camera, but this is all rubber. They need to get a red tape handle wrap, so I'll do that once I finish with all these steaks and clean my hands up after that, because I don't want to have any residual stain on my hands. Put these over here where they're not going to get messed up. All right. Now for these poplar steaks, I think I'm just going to go with the regular natural jute. I thought about doing black, but I think these are too dark for black. I don't think black's really going to contrast with these very well. So I thought I would do the natural cord or the green. What do you guys think? Green or regular like natural colored jute? Because the natural color, I think, looks more like, I don't know, authentic, I guess would be the word I'm looking for. And it contrasts well with the dark stain. I have another style. These I did with a tapered tip. I have another style of these poplar steaks that's cheaper, that has a pyramidal tip, because the pyramid tip's pretty easy to get done. And they don't have a handle wrap. Those are like, I think they're like 16 bucks on the shop with free shipping. So they're pretty inexpensive. These will probably sell for like 19, just because they took a little longer for the tip and the handle wrap. Some people said they liked the price point, but they wanted them to be just a little nicer. So, and they didn't like some people don't like the pyramid tip. So I just figured I'd kill two birds with one stone and make a second type that doesn't have the pyramid tip and has a handle wrap. All right, like I said, if anyone's got any questions while I'm doing this, drop those in the chat. I will gladly answer them. Help me keep my mind off my cramping fingers while I do this, because, man, this kills the muscles in my hand, because I have to keep this string so tight, this jute cord, because it doesn't really have a lot of stretch to it, so I have to keep it super tight. Otherwise, it will come loose even if I tie it down. So you got to keep it as tight as you're wrapping around it as you can. Then when I get to the bottom, I'll tie off the knot, and that'll hold it in place. And I've also got a walking stick I need to put a handle wrap on this morning. Forgot about that walking stick. I'm waiting to finish that walking stick for like probably about 6 months now. I started on it about 6 months ago and got a little busy and sidetracked with custom orders and stuff, so I didn't have time to finish it. So finally got a chance to finish it this weekend. Oh yeah, and I do custom orders. You can just send me a message on YouTube or Instagram or eBay or wherever if you're interested in something weird custom. I'm mostly known for making custom baseball bats, like zombie apocalypse style baseball bats. I've made, different themed Negan style, like Lucille bats. I've made nail bats with giant nails driven through them. I've done axe bats with saw blades sticking out the sides. I even did a Freddy Krueger Nightmare on Elm Street themed Lucille a few years ago. They've even done a Hello Kitty one. Did a Hello Kitty Lucille. That was like one of my favorite ones. That was a really good time. I think it's funny because I made one and I sold it. My niece actually inspired that. She's a big Hello Kitty fan and she thought it would be cool. So I made a proof of concept for her. And I made a second one, and the second one sold. And then I think I've made like 3 or 4 of them since then. I've actually had people see the pictures of that Hello Kitty Lucille, and they wanted a similar one. So I've made a few of those. All right, one down. There we go. If you guys got any questions about what I'm doing or what's going on in the shop, like I said, drop those in the chat. I will answer you. Just doing our last push before spooky season here, because it is approaching quickly. And every year before this one, I would always tell myself I was going to be ready for Halloween and that I would bulk up my steak inventory a few weeks before spooky season starts. And every year I would fail at doing that. So this year I instead just told myself that all year between January and Halloween, the start of spooky season, I would just make a few steaks every week. And that's what I've been doing. So I should have a pretty solid inventory of vampire steaks for this Halloween. And I've got a good amount of cosplay props. I've got some Donatello stabs in the shop, like Ninja Turtle stabs. I've got some Raphael sai that are also rubber, like the Electra sai that are in the shop. I used to make these Michelangelo nunchucks, but they were kind of difficult to make, and they just didn't really seem to sell. But they were con safe. They were plastic and foam and rubber, and so completely con safe. And they were styled after the cartoon nunchucks. I've been trying to think of how to make the movie style nunchucks. To make props for those, but I haven't really found a cost-effective way to do that. I think I could make them, the ones that look like the 1991 movie, I could make them, but I think they would end up being like $80 a set. So I don't think most people are willing to pay that for a set of cosplay nunchucks. And at some point, I also plan to try to make Leonardo, con-safe Leonardo katana, but I have not, or ninjato, but I haven't gotten to that quite yet. But yeah, the Halloween season is almost here. I'm so excited for it, honestly, this year. I need it. I need Halloween. This summer has sucked. I don't know about you guys, but it's been a kind of a crappy summer. Except for last month. Last month I got to go to Texas and hang out with one of my kids, and do some camping and video games, and we hit up medieval nights or medieval times in Dallas. That was a good time. They changed the show. Unfortunately, you can kind of tell they changed the show because the choreography's still a little janky, but always a good time though. Ooh, excuse me for yawning in your face there. If you're just arriving, this is Sunday finishing work at Warrior Wood and Props. If you got any questions about what I'm working on or what I do in the shop, feel free to drop those in the chat and I will gladly answer them. Or if you have any questions in general. Oh, come on. There we go. See, that's what happens when you don't stretch it. I didn't stretch it tight enough and it started to slip. All right, there we go. Try to fray up the ends for two reasons. One, it makes it look a little more used, and also helps keep the knot in place. There we go. I got that one. Also, please don't stake any human beings with my stakes. I would really appreciate that because, you know, I don't want to end up on the news for bad reasons. Yeah, I would hate to find out someone got staked with one of my vampire stakes. That would not be great. I always say, like, if you come across a real vampire, okay, maybe, but you need to be very sure that you've come across a real vampire, because apparently if you stake a human being, it will also kill them. So, you know, you better be pretty sure. Actually, not pretty sure. You better be like 100% sure. Seriously. You better have no doubts that that you're staking an actual vampire. Although, to let you know, if you are staking an actual vampire, make sure you read all the lore, because what you've seen in movies, as far as staking vampires is concerned, sometimes the movies don't exactly follow the traditional lore of vampire staking, because there are rules, believe it or not, to staking a vampire. And a lot of times the movies don't really follow those rules. Like, number one, never take the stake out. If you stake a vampire, you're not supposed to take the stake out. You're supposed to leave it in. Because if the stake is taken out, apparently that's a problem. They can come back. Also, like, number two, once you stake the vampire, you're supposed to chop their head off. The reason is, according to a lot of the old school Romanian and Wallachian lore, if a vampire's head isn't chopped off, then if their body falls under the light of the full moon, they can regenerate and the stake can be dislodged from their chest. So you don't want that happening. Make sure you chop the head off, and then, you know, burn the remains. That's what the old school, or bury them, one of those two, with the head chopped off and a stake in the chest. That's the old school lore. The other part of the old school lore, which no one ever talks about, it always bugs me. I think I talk about this every time I'm doing vampire stakes on here. One of the parts of the old vampire lore that drives me nuts, because I've never ever once heard it used seen it used in a book or a movie, is that you should never ever stake a vampire with a stake made from evergreen wood. Uh, Evergreen in the Romanian and Eastern European lore is considered a symbol of immortality, because evergreen they don't go through the life, death, rebirth cycle, that most trees do, where they shed leaves and stuff. So evergreen is seen as a symbol of immortality, and since vampires are immortal, the idea is that staking a vampire with evergreen wood will not kill them. And in some parts of the lore, not only will it not kill them, it will actually make them stronger. So I'm not sure we want to be testing that. Okay, I don't know if that part of the lore is accurate or not, but I don't feel that that's the kind of thing you want to be testing to find out if it's true while dealing with an actual vampire. So just stick with regular non-evergreen woods. Hardwoods are always a good choice. Poplar, oak. I've got some purple heart and padauk and zebra wood stakes also in my shop. If you're looking for something a little more exotic, I'm not sure why you would want something more exotic, but they look cool. They look cool as hell. Which I feel like, if you're going to have vampire stakes, it might as well look cool, right? Halfway there. And if you have any questions, I actually just finished a book not too long ago for DK Publishing on supernatural creatures. And I actually did a panel at Tampa Comic-Con on supernatural creatures recently. So if you have any questions about supernatural creatures and how to deal with them, you can also drop those in the chat. I will answer them for you. You know what also is weird? I was at Tampa Comic-Con earlier this month, like the first weekend of August. And somehow, I'm not quite sure how, I got put on a panel called Swipe Right for Monsters, which was about monster fantasy, monster romantic fantasy books. I got asked some really weird questions in that panel. I was asked things I never thought I would be asked about monsters in a panel. And I got asked what my favorite monster appendage was, which is a question I've never even thought about. So I did not have a good answer for that. And I got asked a lot about monster genitalia. Also something I don't really know a lot about. Unfortunately, the lore very rarely covers the monster genitalia unless it's a tanuki. Like the tanuki in Japanese folklore, they talk a lot about its genitals because they're humongous for some reason. He has giant balls. The raccoon dog in Japanese mythology, gigantic testicles. And if you're just joining us, I'm very sorry that that's the first thing you heard when you came in. Was me saying giant testicles. If you are just joining us, this is Sunday finishing work at Warrior Wood and Props. I am just wrapping up some stakes, and then I'm going to do a walking stick. And I've got some electrosai that I can hopefully... Oh, that reminds me. I got the tape for those electrosai in my pocket. Probably just take that out. I don't have a whole lot of red tape left for these electrosai. I'm not sure if I've got enough to finish both of them. So if not, we may have to postpone that one until next Sunday. But we'll see. I'll do one of them. And if we run out of tape, we run out of tape. We'll finish them up next weekend. Just have to order some red athletic tape to get those done. Also, my electrosai, they also sell with a red satin headscarf to kind of complete the outfit. I have 2 sets of these I need to finish, which I don't know why I haven't gone ahead and ordered more red athletic tape. I probably should have. But I definitely don't have enough to finish both sets. I'll have to remember to do that today. Welcome, everybody. If you got any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat, like why you're watching a chubby middle-aged man cord wrap the handle of a vampire steak. But, you know, that's what you came in the room for. That's what the people want, right? A middle-aged guy making vampire hunter steaks. Super exciting stuff. And if you got any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. Like, why the hell I'm doing this? Or is this what I thought I would be doing with my life kind of questions? Those are also fine. Actually, no, I have like 3 jobs, but running the shop is probably my favorite of those 3. Even though it's the job that makes the least money, it's my favorite. My other jobs is I'm a marketing copywriter during the day for a cybersecurity company, and I also write, right now I'm under contract with DK Publishing for a series of encyclopedia for readers ages 8 to 15 or 14, I can't remember. I did Legendary Creatures, then I just finished Supernatural Creatures, then I did Legendary Heroes last year, and right now I just started working on The Unknown, which is... Oh, thanks, Captain Ken. Yeah, I've got a lot of weird stuff on there. If it's not already painfully obvious, I have rampant ADHD. So I make a wide variety of things because otherwise I get bored. If you're making the same stuff all the time, it tends to get a little tedious. So this way, every now and then I get to switch stuff up. There we go. So like for a while, I'll be making vampire steaks, and then usually around the holidays, I find I'm making a lot of Monkey King long stabs and Donatello stabs. I have like 3 or 4 different kinds of those that I make. I have one standard one that's for people that are doing the 91 cosplay. It's slightly shorter, and the thickness is where it fits in the back holder that most of those costumes come with. So, and because it's shorter, slightly shorter, it won't drag on the ground. Then I have a regular one that's like an actual staff that's longer and thicker, and then I have a kid-sized one that I also make. It's about 48 inches long, about the size of a Joe staff, but it's for smaller kids. If they're doing Donatello cosplay and they want a real staff to use, then I don't sell a whole lot of those. I've probably sold 3 or 4 of them over the years, but I like the idea of having at least one staff the kids can use. How did I come up with them? Dude, my brain, like I said, I have ADHD, so, you know, I come up with... Sometimes it's customers, though. You'd be surprised. Like, sometimes I'll have a client, they'll come to me, and they'll be like, hey, could you make this? And something weird that they found. And I'll be like, I don't know, but I will try. And so I work on it, and if I can make it, I make it for them. And then once I've made it for them, if it's something I feel like people would buy, I keep making it. Now, the yawara and the boken and all that kind of stuff, I've actually learned, I've been making those for a long time. The vampire steaks, like when I was a teenager, I was super obsessed with like the Hammer films, the Hammer vampire films of like the 70s and 80s. I was real with like Christopher Lee and stuff, really loved those movies. And so I've always really liked vampire steaks. I just think they're cool. So, especially the older style ones, which is a lot of my stuff is modeled after the older style stakes. I've got some newer, like these are more of a newer modern style, but the bats that started because I had a guy who wanted a Lucille, so I bought a 4-pack of some Blem bats, which are bats that they're still functional, but they didn't pass like the quality standards of the bat manufacturer. Which, like, if they have the slightest, like, they have to be perfectly straight. They can't have the slightest like flaws in them. So they call those Blem bats and they sell them. So I made a Lucille, custom Lucille bat for a customer. They really liked it. It was a pain in the ass that first time, by the way, because trying to wrap barbed wire around a baseball bat, not nearly as easy as you would think it is. Definitely not as easy as The Walking Dead made it look when Negan does it. So the first one was really tough, and I even told myself I wasn't going to make another one. Then I had somebody ask me if I would make another one, so I made another one. And then at first I was just making Lucille bats, because The Walking Dead was still pretty popular at that time, and it was a few years back. Then those kind of dropped off, and I was still buying baseball bats, because I was selling so many of Lucille bats. So I thought, what if I just let people tell me what they want? So I started doing custom baseball bats, which I don't have a listing for on eBay. I probably should. Most of the time people just come to me and ask me if I can make a certain kind of baseball bat, but I probably should make a listing on eBay for the custom bats. But yeah, so I started just making whatever people wanted. Like I made there's an influencer named Nugs the Final Girl. I made a nail bat for her that says Nugs the Final Girl on it. And that's on her. You can go see that on her Instagram and YouTube. And there's another one named Refashion Hippie. I think she's here on YouTube as well. I made a bat Balenciaga for her. She does like bad fashion videos and bad design videos. So she really dislikes Balenciaga. And so she wanted a bat Balenciaga baseball bat. So I made her a Harley Quinn inspired bat Balenciaga Spikes baseball bat. It was pretty cool. It was like red and black. But I've made all kinds. And like right now I've got a customer that I'm going to start working on a new project for them. They want a Tessin, which is like a Japanese war fan shaped club, which I think sounds pretty cool. And they want one of those out of Yellow Heart. So they're not planning to order it until like October. So in the meantime, I've been planning to do a proof of concept. I'm still waiting on, I ran out of Yellow Heart, so I had to order some, but I've got some Purple Heart. So I think as a proof of concept, probably next weekend. Well, not next weekend. Next weekend I won't be in the shop. Long story, but next week, probably the weekend after that, I'll start making the War Fan Tessin Club. It just basically is like shaped like a fan, but it doesn't have any paper. Like you can't open it. It was very. It is a common thing among Japanese daimyo and some samurai, because they would use their closed war fan as like a discipline tool to like smack a retainer across the head or something as a form of, punishment, I guess. And after a while, they got tired of breaking their fans, I think, so they started just making them out of wood with no actual fan part. So I'm going to try to make one of those for this client. And if the proof of concept works, I'll make one out of Purple Heart for them, and then I'll probably start selling those on the shop. I actually looked on eBay. Most of the people, by the way, there's a thing on eBay. I've noticed a lot of people on eBay, they try to sell stuff like that as antiques, which is ridiculous. They're not antiques. A lot of the time, they're just, I don't want to put my glasses back on. A lot of times, they're just making new stuff and distressing it and trying to tell people it's antiques. Always be careful on eBay when you're buying anything that someone tells you is an antique. A lot of times they're not. It's just some stuff they bought and distressed and put together to make it look like an antique. And then they'll print up a certificate of authenticity, which doesn't mean anything. Anybody with a printer can make a certificate of authenticity. I've seen, matter of fact, I have some people that will buy my vampire steaks and distress them even more, and then turn around and try. There's listings on eBay right now where people are selling stuff they bought from me as antiques for like 3 times what I'm selling it for. Sometimes 10 times what I'm selling it for. It's ridiculous. Yeah, if you see any of my steaks being sold by anybody else as an antique, not an antique. Definitely made within the last 3 years. But yeah, that's where most of my ideas come from, though. Some of it's me, some of it's stuff that the clients have asked for over the years, and yeah, I made one for them, and I felt like it was something I could continue making, and people would want to buy, so I continued making them. It's my favorite thing, though. It's kind of like what I love about doing this is that, like, it's a lot of fun when someone comes to me and they're like, hey, there's this thing that doesn't exist that I really want to, like, have exist. And they ask me if I can make it, and I have to figure out how to make it. This is poplar. It's poplar wood. It's a fairly inexpensive wood, but it's a good sturdy hardwood. Probably at the lower end of hardwoods though. But it's been stained, so give it more of a dark appearance to make it look a little more, a little more sturdy. And yeah, these are poplar, which is, like I said, fairly inexpensive wood. Very easy to work with. I use it for these style of steaks because it allows me to sell them at a much lower price point than like the steaks that I make out of oak or hickory, because working oak and hickory is far more difficult. Almost there. There we go. Because yeah, the more expensive the wood, the more expensive usually the product is going to be. So every now and then I'll make steaks out of an exotic wood if I can figure out a way to make it cooler. If I have a cutoff that doesn't really work for anything else. And I've got a few of those on the shop out of like Purple Heart and Padauk and Zebra Wood and stuff like that. Usually it's cutoffs from other projects that I've made. But I do find that people are more interested in simple, older looking steaks than they are in super expensive, well, not super expensive, but more expensive, exotic wood steaks. That's not really what people are looking for when they want to do a vampire hunter cosplay. I have a few people that I sell to, though, who are kind of like, that's their thing. Like, they're vampire steak collectors. I've got a few of those. There's some it's a bizarre shop that I sell stuff to in New York. Really nice lady runs a shop up there. I don't know if I'm allowed to say who that is, so I'm not going to. But she buys stuff for me to resell at her little curio shop up there in New York, and I got a few resellers that I sell stuff to, mostly steaks. Usually around Christmas time, I've got at least one company. They usually come to me around November, and they order about 12 to 18 hickory or oak daggers. So I make a ton of oak daggers for them. It feels like every year. All right, so I had to wipe. Even though these are somewhat cured, the stain on these steaks tends to kind of rub off on my fingers, and I do not want to get stain on the walking stick or the electrocide. So let me put these in the inventory room, and I'll come back and we'll get started. Oops, sorry about that. We'll get started on the walking stick. Be right back. Whew, all right. Oh, let me throw this away. All right. Oh, let's see here. All right, so this is a walking stick that I made out of orange Osage. We had a hurricane come through last year. I want to say it was Milton, and I had a neighbor who their Osage tree didn't like come down, but like it got absolutely, one of the big branches got absolutely shredded. So I was able to harvest some of the wood, some of the pieces of the branch, while I was helping him remove the debris from his yard. So I made a couple of stakes and I made a walking stick. Yes, I do have a lot of stuff in the inventory room. Yes, I do. The inventory room is very full, especially right now right ahead of Halloween. It's a very full room, but that's okay. It won't be full here in about a month. That vampire stake inventory doesn't seem to last. But yes, I have a bunch of stuff in the inventory room. Stakes, yawara, boken, wasters, bow staves, props, baseball bats. You know, you name it. If it's on my shop on eBay, it's probably in the inventory room. I've got a few things that I leave at home, not many, but we're actually getting ready to get our house ready to possibly sell. So I'm going to be moving that inventory back here. What the heck? Back here to the shop, because we got to get the house ready to show, and it's kind of hard to show the shop when you've got a bunch of crazy shit sitting up against a wall, you know. I feel like most people, if they saw our house with my inventory in there, would think they were probably buying a home for a serial killer. So definitely don't want to do that. Gotta make it look like we have a normal home with normal human beings living in it. All right. So let's see. So I decided to go with green, I think, for two reasons. One, I think it contrasts well with the orange, and also because I have this. It's a length of green paracord that I haven't really had a use for. It doesn't seem like. So oh yeah, that's the no-brainer bat there, Captain Ken. That's one of my favorites that I've ever made. I really enjoyed that one. You know what? That one, honestly, my table saw blade needed replacing, so I replaced it. And I hate throwing stuff away, so I thought, there's got to be a way I can repurpose this table saw blade. So I cut it in half, sawed some trenches into the sides of that bat, and painted it up, and embedded the saw blades into the side with some very strong industrial epoxy, and covered that up with plumber steel putty. Those blades are not going anywhere, I can tell you that. But yeah, it looks cool as hell. I love that one. I almost didn't put it up for sale. I almost kept it for myself, but I thought, no. You can't really do that when you own a shop like this. There's very little stuff that I keep for myself. Usually the stuff I keep for myself is stuff that I can't sell for some reason. Usually because there's a flaw in it or something, and so I'll keep it and use it for me. Because even though there's a flaw in it, a lot of times it's still usable stuff. And other times it's proof of concepts that went wrong. I got a few of those hanging on the wall to remind me of my failures, because it's always good to keep your failures in mind. It helps keep you humble. It also helps you remember that times some projects just don't work. You want them to. Sometimes some projects you just can't get them done. It's only happened probably a couple of times, or maybe 3 times the whole time I've been doing this shop, that I've had projects I couldn't finish. Most of the time, if I say I can do it, I'm usually right. Not always though. I definitely have times where I'll think I can do a project and I'll plan it out and everything, and I go to do it, and just whatever the plan was that I made was not, it turned out wasn't as great a plan as I thought it was. I think that's good enough. Yeah, it's a good. All right. Well. All right, get out of there, you. All right. There we go. So we got nice little walking stick. Oh, if this knot will stay in place. Oh, please tell me this is not gonna. There we go. Is that gonna stay in place? Yes, it is. All right. Well, let's get this side. There we go. Now we got cool little curved walking stick out of Osage. I'll stick that over here for now, because that one's got to go back to the house with me anyway. I gotta take pictures and list it on the shop and all that stuff. Do I make wood swords? Yes, I do. I make practice swords. I make boken, and I make wasters for European martial arts, mostly Buhurt, armored combat, and HEMA guys. I have a gladius waster. I have a Viking sword waster. I have a broadsword waster. I have a barbarian sword one that I made years ago that no one's, I think I finally sold it. Someone had ordered that years ago as a custom order. They wanted a barbarian sword shaped BDSM paddle, so I made it. And then after I made it, they ghosted me. That's actually why I started, now on custom orders, I usually will require a deposit, because, you know, you gotta be sure that you're gonna get paid. It took me like 3 years to sell that stupid barbarian sword, because it's a very niche thing. No one really is out there looking for a barbarian sword BDSM paddle. But I think I finally sold that right before, I think it was probably back in June. I think I sold it finally. But yes, I make all sorts of wood swords, mostly for practice. But if you're looking for like a like a prop sword, wood sword. I actually have been planning to start doing that. Like I've got some wood to do it with that I've bought. I just haven't had time to work on it. I was actually going to start by trying to make a machete, like a prop machete out of wood. eBay is the best place to find my stuff right now. My Shopify store right now doesn't really work because Shopify is having some weird issues with their logins. I don't know what's going on with that. Apparently, I'm not the only one dealing with it. I'm actually considering just canceling my Shopify account. It's gotten so ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I can't just call their support and get this fixed. But anyway, but yeah, eBay is where I would go. eBay, Warrior Wooden Props on eBay is definitely the place to go. There should be, if you go to my bio on YouTube, should be a Linktree link in my bio, or at the very least, there's a link to my eBay shop on my YouTube main page. So yeah, if you want to find anything that you're seeing on here, go to my main page and we'll get that figured out. All right, I think you go throw this away real quick. All right. Oh, do I have? Yes, I do. Okay. So I need razor blades for this. So these are prop Electra Psi. These are rubber with a chrome coating. So yes, all my inventory room stuff is on eBay. Everything in my inventory room is on eBay. Except for maybe 4 or 5 items that are home right now, but those items are coming over here by next week. So, all right. Give me just a second here. Come here, razor blade. Go. Crap. Probably should have cut that all the way. I thought it would tear, but it did not tear clean. There we go. There we go. So for these Electra Psi, the first thing I do is the cross point around the guard. Make sure you get it tight so there's as few folds and bubbles in this as possible. You just fold it over itself. And then this one. I actually have had people ask me why I don't do the movie Psi for Electra with all the intricate carvings in it. And I don't do that for 2 reasons. Number one, I'm not a big fan of the Electra films. I really loved the comic books. I still do. And not a big fan of the movie Electra. Sorry. If you are, I apologize. But the other reason is, if you ever tried to carve intricate designs into, oh, how do I make this out of rubber? It's literally just molded rubber, man. It's just liquid rubber in a mold. That's it. Actually, I used to make them, make the actual rubber molds myself. I found that there was a place where they mass produce it's the same mold I use, but they mass produce them, and they were able to make them for cheaper than what I can make them as an individual. So I now buy them off of a manufacturer that makes these. It's literally the same size I used to hand make. It just takes me way less time and money to do it. So sometimes that just works better if you can find something prefabricated. Um, so I get them, but when I get them, they're usually it's a colored rubber. It's either black or green or blue or red. I did different colors. So I prime those. I give them a chrome coating for the Electro ones. I use a different metallic silver coating for the Raphael ones because his Psy are less shiny than Electra's. But I use chrome. It probably doesn't show up on camera super great. Uh, and then just give it a red handle wrap, and I sell it with a red headscarf. Painting these, though, not super easy. And the handle wrap part can get a little tricky because you've got to be super tight. With it. And you also have to be careful that you're not scraping off paint or anything while you're doing this. Because it's very easy to accidentally scrape stuff with a fingernail because the paint on this is dry, but it has not quite been 48 hours, so it could still be a little iffy in some areas. But these I tend to sell, like I said, around the beginning of summer. I sell these. People tend to buy these, I should say, and I tend to sell them around Halloween for people who are doing electric Halloween costumes. There we go. Where are you? There we go. I need the razor blade, and then we're gonna put this around here. And then later on, I will put a slight dab of adhesive over this tape to make sure that it doesn't come loose over time. But yeah, these are completely rubber. But they look great on camera. If you're doing Electra or Raphael cosplay and you're going into like a convention, you can get into a convention with these. They're perfectly legal. They're not even a weapon. Literally just let the security guard see that they're rubber and they'll let you in. That's one down. I think we might actually have enough tape to get one set done. Put this down. But when I get these, they're pretty rough looking. Like the company that makes them, they send me they send them to me straight out of the mold. They're not really well finished. So there's like big, there's like a big seam on it of rubber, like where it's pressed, in the mold. So I have to cut that off and kind of sand over it. You can still kind of see it if you look really close, but for the most part, I spend time sanding them and getting that seam edge off. Probably should have cut that on my cutting board, but I'm feeling lazy today. All right, do a cross point. Come on. Cooperate with me. There we go. That one's done. Yeah, I mean, the only stuff... No, those are definitely not legal to carry in your car. No, they're not. I mean, I don't know, maybe in some states... Like, I know some states have weird, like, melee weapon laws. Like, I know you can open carry a sword in, like, some states. So, it would kind of depend on what state you're in. But no. Those, I would imagine not legal. If you're going to have them in your car, my recommendation is to keep it, like in a trunk or in a case of some kind, so that if you get pulled over, you know, you can say, you know, hey, it's something I'm using for a photo shoot or a costume. It's, you know, and I'm keeping it out of my hands. I have been pulled over with some of my crazy bats in my car by police. It's never been a problem. All I normally do is just tell them, you know, I run a shop where I make weird stuff for people, and they're usually more curious than anything. A lot of times I'll open a link to my shop and show them all the stuff that I make, and they're usually pretty cool about it. I had one cop that decided to make a huge issue of it one time, you know, where he called in dogs and called in backup, and they came in because I had a weapon in my car. You know, the weapon was a Negan bat at that time, and the other cops, when they got there, were kind of the opinion that this guy was wasting everyone's time, and he was. So they searched my car, didn't really find anything they considered problematic, and sent me on my way. But I would definitely not recommend like keeping it in a vehicle. But yeah, the bat with the saw blade is on my eBay shop, if that's your question. It is there. It's look no brainer is what it's called, the no brainer bat. If you just look up no brainer bat on eBay, it'll come right up, most likely. Or axe bat, either one of those two, or no brainer axe bat, either one. Well, there we go. I don't know why these don't show up super well on the phone camera, but on regular camera these look great. They look like metal. They, you know, you can kind of sometimes you get a little bend in them. They're not hard. It's not hard to just kind of wing that out if you were taking a picture so they look straighter. But no, they are rubber. They are perfectly safe to use at a convention. No, eBay doesn't seem to have a problem with anything that I sell so far. I've never really had issues yet. Etsy had a lot of problems, but eBay is kind of Wild Westish, to be honest with you. They don't seem to mind that I sell this stuff. At least they haven't told me anything. I looked on their weapons policies, and mostly their concern is firearms stuff, which I do not sell. I don't even sell really fake firearms in my shop. I've thought about making some fantasy guns, but you know, eBay seems to be more worried about firearms than they are about this kind of stuff. And also, but you know, you have to be smart. You know, legally, I have to say certain things. You know, like for example, with steaks, I have to say, please don't stake anyone. You know, when I sell like yawara or things that could be used as weapons, I need to explain that things are for like entertainment purposes only. Do not use them as weapons. You know, you can't just sell them. You've got to, if you don't have the proper legal like disclaimers in your description, they will unlist your item. So I'll give you an example. I made a World War I trench club that I put on eBay earlier this year, and it got delisted because I forgot to put the entertainment purposes only disclaimer in it. So you have to be careful with it. You gotta be sure, you know, if you're listing it, that you know what legal disclaimers you need to have in your description. So for me, that's usually just saying, you know, this is for entertainment. Please do not use this as a weapon. And that usually seems to cover me. So anyway, these are done. You know, I've actually got another pair. I think I might go ahead and do that second set. Hang on one second. It looks like I got enough tape. So let me go get that second set. Might as well get that knocked out. And the one thing that kind of ticked me off this time when my vendor sent me these, normally they're pretty good about like packing them in a way where they're not like right on top of each other. And this time, I don't know who packed it, but they just literally threw all of these into it. Like I ordered like 3 or 4 sets, and they just threw them all in the box and closed it, which caused them to take on a few warps, which I have been slowly getting out, and they're almost gone, but like it's a pain in the butt, because with rubber, if it sits in one position for a while, it takes a bit to get it straight without putting a new warp in it, you know. That's the pain in the butt. So this will probably be the last thing I do today. So if you got any questions, now's the time to stick those in the chat, and I will gladly answer them before I leave. But first I gotta finish this Electrocide set, so. So every time I cut on the table, I'm like, I should have used the cutting board, but I keep doing it, so. That's all right. This table's, it's just a cheap plastic table. It's not like I'm ruining anything nice. It's kind of what these tables are for, is to get ruined. Yes, cloth tape. I actually did, the first time I made a set of these, I bought multiple kinds of red tape. I bought silicone fusion tape. I bought some kind of cool patterned like handlebar wrap tape. I tried a few different kinds, and none of them really worked well. And you know, sometimes the simplest solution is the best. And that's kind of what happened here. The red athletic tape, you know, it works better. It's simpler. It's easier to replace. No, hockey tape. I have hockey tape. This is hockey tape. This is just straight up athletic tape. Hockey tape, it's the problem with hockey tape is that it's meant to be kind of sticky, which is great if you're a hockey player because you're wearing gloves and you know you've got your hockey stick. There's like a tackiness to hockey tape. When you use it on props, the problem for that is that sometimes it causes the person's hands to get sticky and oils and stuff get on it. It stains really badly easily. So athletic tape just seems to be the best option. I've tried a few different kinds of tape on these, and the simplest and least problematic kind was the athletic tape. So I know I honestly felt like I wanted to do something nicer for the handles, but that's what people seemed. I even did a poll on it. I showed a bunch of my people on Instagram and stuff. You know, and here on YouTube, I was like, which tape do you guys think works best? And the athletic tape kept winning out, so that's what I went with. It works. It's not super expensive, so it doesn't add a bunch of cost, you know, to these. If you're doing electric cosplay, you know, and it's like I have to sell these already for like $60, because of the time and cost, you know. And most people don't spend $60 on a set of real size, so you know, it's difficult to sell these if I'm having to sell them for more than 60, so or 70, and so using athletic tape also helps me keep the price point down. So if I had to use like silicone tape, for example, is quite a bit more expensive than the athletic tape. All right. But hockey tape, yeah, that's, I mean, I like hockey tape. I have it because I use it sometimes for other stuff, for like melee weapons or practice weapons. and it works great. But for stuff like this, it just doesn't. It just, there are a few drawbacks to it, especially if it's colored. You know, like colored hockey tape, like if it's red, it just doesn't stay red long. It gets, because of the stickiness of it. Oh, what the heck? Oh, probably help if I use the blade side, right? There we go. There we go. Yeah, that's a pro tip. If you're gonna use a razor blade to cut something, make sure you're using the blade side of the razor. That's gonna be very important. All right, last one. There you go. Come on, come off the table. There we go. Let go. Let go. Because with something like this, also, you have to remember, like if with melee weapons and props, I approach them very differently. Because the thing with a prop, what's more important is what it looks like and how it's going to be used or stored or held. Like that's something I really have to pay more attention to with a prop. With a melee or a practice weapon, you know, it's more about how much punishment can it take, not so much, you know, what it looks like. It's like my practice weapons, a lot of them are not pretty, but goddamn, they will last you for a really long time. There are a lot of very pretty, you know, wood swords and practice weapons out there that the first time you go to spar with them, they're going to snap or crack. They might survive one sparring session if you're lucky. I have people that have bought wasters and boken from me. I mean, I used to do this in college when I was in my 20s. I'm now in my late 40s. I had a period there where I didn't do this. But I have people who bought boken from me back then, back when I was, you know, 20 something years, 16 to 20 years ago. And they still have the boken that I made for them. They're still using them to this day. So yeah, my practice weapons are, and all of my practice weapons are guaranteed as far as like boken and wasters are concerned. That's another reason why a lot of people buy their practice weapons from me, is that if you buy a waster or a boken from me and you go to use it in sparring and it snaps during sparring, because it should not be snapping during sparring. I mean, it will eventually after like years, but it should not be snapping or cracking during sparring. So if you buy one of my boken or wasters and you go to spar with it and it cracks on you or breaks, I will replace it free of charge. You don't have to return the old one. You get a brand new one from me to replace the one that broke. Now, it's not a no questions asked situation, because remember I said sparring. I once had a guy who was using a telephone pole as a sparring dummy, unpadded telephone pole, and was just going to town on this telephone pole. And he broke multiple wasters before I found out why. I thought he was just sparring, so I kept replacing them. I'm like, what are you using these for? And he's like, I'm hitting my practice dummy. I'm like, can you send me a picture of your practice dummy? It's literally like he took the same like lumber they would use for a telephone pole, stuck it in the ground, and just started hitting it. And I'm like, yeah, you need to put some padding on it, man. Like, if you have a sedentary solid object, swords in general will break. A real sword would break in that situation. You can't just go to town on a sedentary object with no padding. You will definitely break your waster. Wasters, but during sparring and regular use, they should stand up like nobody's business. Anyway, these are my last ones for today. That is my last project for this Sunday finishing work. Next weekend, I will not be in the shop because, like I said, we're getting the house ready to sell. So, we've got a lot of stuff around the house just needs to get done to get it ready to show. So, I am going to take a weekend off, just one weekend off from the shop so I can go, we just have, like we've been living in this house for over like almost 14 years, 15 years, and there's a lot of stuff in it. So we just got to go through, empty stuff out, get it ready to sell. And I just need a weekend to do that. Like I said, I work 3 jobs, so I don't have a lot of free time. So this is the one job I can take time off when I need to. So next weekend, I may do some minor stuff in the shop. I won't really be building anything though, but I will try to do a couple of videos while I'm in here next weekend. But like I said, no big builds next weekend because I've got stuff at home I gotta handle. I tell you what, I'm gonna put these in the inventory room. If you've got any last minute questions, drop those in the chat, and I will answer them before I take off. Be right back, people. Oh, let's see. Yeah, nice to meet you too, Ken. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the compliment. I really do. I usually go live on Saturdays around 12:30 for Saturday stating, and then I go live on Sunday mornings for my finishing work at 7:30 a.m. Next weekend I probably won't. I also post a video usually on Saturday morning of what I'm working on, and then I post a finished projects video usually on Tuesday or Wednesday. So, but thank you for hanging out with me this morning, everybody. I really appreciate it. I love the questions there, Captain Ken. Thanks so much. And I'll see you guys next week.